What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. Happy Friday, last day of the week for schedule preview predictions. So today, we're going to be talking about the Texas Tech Red Raiders, another team from the Big 12, a team that I think is going to improve this year. Can they make a bowl game? That's what you're here to find out. You're here to find out my thoughts, right? Hey, thank you guys so much for clicking on the video. Thank you guys so much for the support on the channel as of late. It's pretty much more than doubled in size since I started these preview predictions a couple months ago. So thank you guys so much. Continue to hit that subscribe button if you're a Texas Tech fan or if you're a college football fan like myself. Hey, continue to leave likes on the videos, share the videos as well, helps push the videos out to as many people as possible. You can leave a comment down below telling me your thoughts on Texas Tech this year. Just, of course, be mindful of what you say. Be nice to everyone. That's all I ask. So without further ado, let's talk about Texas Tech in 2021. Over the past couple of years, to me, my opinion, Texas Tech has always been a team that's better than what their record has shown, right? And it feels like they don't necessarily do this on purpose, but it feels like they, for lack of a better phrase, find ways to lose games. Now, that's not negative in any respect. That's just the way that it seems. Not that they're throwing games or anything, because I don't think any team in this day and age throws any sort of game, right? But there are games that in the past they absolutely could have won, right? They absolutely could have won and just didn't. Take Oklahoma State last year. Could have won that game, but just didn't. And Texas Tech, I think, needs to change that this year in order for them to be a solid team in the Big 12. So let's look at some players that they lost. You got to start with Bellman, the quarterback that started for Texas Tech and has started for Texas Tech over the past couple of years. Now, he hasn't been the healthiest player or the most consistent player, but he's still shown a lot of flashes of being a solid quarterback. I like Bellman, taking his talents to Ann Arbor. We'll see what he does up there. Wide receiver group. Yeah, there's a lot of production leaving this as well. Jalen Polk, TJ Vasher, Keyshawn Carter. Polk and Carter both transferred out, but Vasher went to the NFL draft. All those guys are notable losses, but none of those were the top targets last year. We'll look at his name here in a little bit. Still, some big losses on the wide receiver group. Offensive lineman Jack Anderson to the NFL draft. And then when you look at the defensive side, so one notable name on here, and if you're a Texas Tech fan, you probably know who that is, but Nick McCann, Eli Howard, a couple of defensive linemen that could play some solid roles, but they were nothing like star-studded or anything. Like, they were solid players, but nothing really that you should like turn your head over, do a double take, right? Solid players off the bench, not great. This is the great player that they're losing, though, is Zach Mcpherson, a great tackler from the defensive back position and led the team last year in interceptions with 4. The rest of the team only had 1. That's a big loss for Tech. Jonathan Davis is just another name I could throw on here. Maybe could have been a solid defensive back. Who knows? Jury's still out on that one, though. Hey, though, not about what you lost. It's about what you have. They're losing a quarterback to the transfer portal, and then they're gaining one from the transfer portal. That is former Oregon quarterback Tyler Shuck. Yes, that is how you say that last name. Shuck has always been a player that is thought to have a pretty high ceiling. And when you saw last year, wasn't necessarily quite at that potential yet. My pick to be the starting quarterback here at Texas Tech, we'll see, right? We'll see if he can reach that potential here. I think he can with the weapons around him. That we'll take a look at in a little bit, right? So Roderick Thompson, I've talked about this kid before. Would not surprise me in the slightest to see Thompson in the top 25 of leading rushers come the end of the season. I think he's that good, that underrated in my opinion. Watch out for him this year. Miles Price is a young wide receiver that looks really promising. Could step into a top 3 or top 4, top 3 role. Kaylon Geiger, player who, sorry, again, I'm going to butcher some names, so I apologize, Texas Tech and college football fans everywhere. But Kaylon Geiger, that's how I'm going to say that name. Geiger was a former all Sun Belt wide receiver that played at Troy. So there you go. But the best wide receiver on this team is Eric Ezukama. I butchered that, I'm sure, so I apologize, Texas Tech fans everywhere, but there's a question mark by his name because he broke his arm in spring practice. So will he be healthy to start the season? I think Texas Tech is hopeful, and it looks the way they're trending that way, but from what I've read, nothing has been confirmed. If you're a Texas Tech fan, you can let me know down in the comment section below if he's been cleared or not. On the defensive side, Andrew Wooten, transfer from Virginia Tech, could be a solid player. You got 2 pretty solid linebackers, and I believe the top 2 tacklers from last year, Colin Schooler and Krishan Merriweather. DeMarcus Fields coming back at the defensive back position. very, very good defensive back, 11 passes defended last year. And then lots of transfers coming in for defensive backs this year for Texas Tech. But the one that I put on this list is Marquise Waters, a transfer over from Duke. So we'll have to see how Texas Tech's defense looks this year. I think, though, it's going to be much improved. Here's the schedule for Texas Tech in 2021. Hey, their record last year was 4-6. That's 3-6 in the Big 12, 8th in the Big 12. Did not play in a bowl game. You guys know where this works. I'm talking about some games more than others because they're more interesting matchups to me. So if the date gets highlighted in green, it's a win. If it gets highlighted in red, it is a loss. Without further ado, let's talk about Texas Tech in 2021. Starting out with the first game of the season, then, well, this is the problem, right? If Eric Ezukama is out for this game against Houston, I could see it being quite a long night for Texas Tech, for the Texas Tech faithful. So while I did say the defense, yes, they should improve. How much does it improve? And I think that's a huge factor here in this game. Houston's bringing in a very, very experienced quarterback to start for them this year. Very experienced quarterback, while Tyler Shuck is not. And in my opinion, Houston's defense is going to be a lot better than Texas Tech's defense, especially first week of the season right out of the gate. Now, it might not prove to be that way later in the season, but ultimately, this game here, technically on a neutral site, going to be played in NRG Stadium. I think Houston's defense is better. And I think it's what helps Houston win this game. So I do have it as a loss for Texas Tech. And it especially, I think, is going to be a loss if Eric Ezukama doesn't play in this game. It's going to be huge if he does play in this game. Could keep it a lot closer. Either way, I see Houston's defense doing enough. I think Houston wins the game. Got a couple home games on the schedule next. One home game against Stephen F. Austin. Yeah, a mediocre FCS team. They should be able to win this game. Look at what worked, what didn't work in this game against Houston. Retool, regroup, get this win here at home. Should also get another nice win at home against Florida International. This should be a really, really nice couple stretch of games here for Texas Tech in which they win both of these. All right, so now Texas Tech gets into Big 12 play, right? Big 12 play coming up next. 9 straight games in the Big 12. And in my opinion, Texas Tech this year is going to win a game that, put this in big quotes, they shouldn't win. Now, when you look at the next 3 teams here on their schedule, I think these are all going to be hard games for them to win. We've talked about how much home field advantage, or at least I have, right? Talked about how much home field advantage could affect the way that the college football landscape shakes out this year. And when you look at the next 2 games, well, their opponents are going to have home field advantage. Starts off with the game against Texas, and I do think that you lose this game here against the Longhorns. Look, Texas, to me, a team that, well, I have some questions about, right? How good are they? Definitely, in my opinion, record-wise at least, going to take a step back from last year. But when you look, they're still, whoever starts at quarterback should be a solid option. Bijan Robinson, in my opinion, is one of the best backs in the entire nation. Got a pretty solid group of wide receivers there as well. On the defensive side, you got to fill in a couple spots, but overall should be solid-ish, right? And especially with an offensive-minded coach like Steve Sarkisian coming in, we'll have to see how Texas Tech fares in this game. I think if the secondary shows some major improvement in the first 3 games, they could keep it relatively close, but I think home field advantage with the home crowd behind them is enough to push Texas over the edge and get the win. So Tech falls to 2-2. And then a road game against West Virginia. I don't think this one is going to be as close as the Texas game. In fact, I think West Virginia can win this one by a double-digit point differential. If they can get consistent on offense, and they being West Virginia, if they can get consistent on offense and their defense continues what they did last year, this is going to be a very, very good team and a team that is going to surprise a lot of people this year for sure. West Virginia is a team that I like quite a bit this year. I just need to see them get consistent on offense. They have all the pieces to do so. They just got to prove it out on the field, especially with how good their defense played last year. I think they're going to be able to slow this Tech offense down, be able to get a win, will the Mountaineers. Keep the losses coming. I don't think you're going to be able to beat TCU, even though you are playing this game at home. I like TCU a lot this year. In my opinion, they're going to have a better defense than Texas Tech. And then when you look at the offensive side for TCU, some really explosive playmakers there for TCU. You got Max Dugan, is a guy that has shown flashes, but has never really been super consistent. He can do that this year. Mike Evans, a 5-star recruit. In fact, I believe they're only 5-star recruit up to this date, coming back, I should say, at running back. Should have a pretty good season. Lots of weapons at wide receiver. Gary Patterson is known for his tough defense. I think TCU is going to win this game. Could it end up being a shootout? Maybe, possibly, but I think TCU's defense is going to do enough in this game, and TCU's offense going to score enough points to outlast the Red Raiders. The annual bye week game against Kansas. This will be a win for Texas Tech. So, road game doesn't matter. It's Kansas. There will be more red in that stadium than blue. Texas Tech wins the game. All right, then a home game against Kansas State for their next one. So Kansas State finished ahead of Texas Tech in the Big 12 rankings last year, and albeit besides the transfer portal, they're returning more from the team last year than Texas Tech. However, when you look overall at this Kansas State team, to me, I don't see anything special. Yes, they have Deuce Vaughn, one of the best running backs in all of college football. Get to know his name. Skylar Thompson, he can be okay when he plays well, right? But overall, I don't think this Kansas State team is going to do anything super impressive this year. Now, I know they've beat Oklahoma in the past a couple of times, right? They've beaten Oklahoma past couple of seasons and put an end to the Sooners. Well, undefeated stretch. I've given the Sooners brought back down to earth. This isn't the Oklahoma Sooners. This is the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And while it could prove to be a shootout game, I think Texas Tech offense is going to be better than Kansas State's. Red Raiders beat the Wildcats. All right, next game. Tech fans, I don't think you're going to be too upset with me on this one. Raise your hand if any of you thought you're going to beat Oklahoma this year. If you raised your hand, you lied to yourself. Oklahoma's looked like one of the best teams in all of college football over the spring and summer. They look so good. You have to get really, and I mean really nitpicky to find a flaw with Oklahoma. You have to get really nitpicky. In my opinion, they're closing the gap between them and Alabama at number one. Bama, in my opinion, still at number one. Oklahoma, a very solid number two. They look ready. They look gearing up for a national title run. Sorry, Tech fans, not winning this game in Norman. So then they get their bye week. Very bad place for a bye week. Yes and no. It's late in the season, which is not where you want a bye week at all, but it's in between your two toughest games of the season. So can you complain? If I were a Tech fan, I'd say yeah, because I don't think you're going to be able to beat Iowa State anyway. So I'll put the red box up there as well. I don't think you're going to beat Oklahoma either. Just why put the bye week here? Like, put it in that stretch of Texas, West Virginia, and TCU. Like, put it in there. Like, that would be a perfect spot. But again, can't all have what we want. Sorry, Tech fans. And yes, I don't think you guys are going to beat Iowa State either. Iowa State could have one of the better defenses, could have one of the better defenses in the Big 12 this year. It's steadily improved over the past couple of years. And when you look at the offensive side, what's not to like? Breece Hall was the leading rusher in America last year. Pat on the back, called that out myself. Brock Purdy, due for a bounce back season. Wide receivers have only gotten better. Best group of tight ends in the nation. I've already talked about how much their defense has improved, returning the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year in Mike Rose. Like, there's a lot to like at Iowa State. I think they're going to be a player in the college football playoff conversation. Well, the Cyclones, sorry, Tech fans, you aren't winning this one. So now you're 4-6. You've equaled your record from last year. You got to win your last two games to secure your spot in a bowl. Home game against Oklahoma State. Remember how I said that Texas Tech is going to win a game that they quote unquote shouldn't? I think this is that game. Everything fits in perfectly. Texas Tech is going to be fighting to get into a bowl game. When you look at that Oklahoma State game last year, it was very close. In fact, Tech could have even won it, and the pieces just fit right. Tech's defense should be improved this year. Oklahoma State's offense is going to take some steps back with losing the likes of Hubbard and Wallace. Tech's offense is still going to remain pretty strong. Oklahoma State's defense, the jury's still out on that one. There's a lot to like if you're a Tech fan about this matchup, especially with it being late in the season. You're probably going to be fighting for your bowl game lives here. I think Texas Tech goes out, gets this win on their home turf, improves to 5-6, which sets up an all or nothing game against the Baylor Bears. So they do have to go on the road. Now, look, Baylor going to have to replace Charlie Brewer, going to have to replace John Lovett. Those two things in and of itself, replacing a quarterback, running back, When you have to do it in separate seasons, it's hard enough to do, especially at a program like Baylor. But to do it both, to have to do it both in the same season at a program like Baylor, that's going to be pretty hard. However, this is the last game of the season. These late season games, always usually really hard to predict because you just don't know how teams are going to turn out. Baylor, I could see winning this game, but I'm going to be nice to you, Texas Tech fans. I have you winning this game. I absolutely could see a scenario where Baylor wins, but I do think Texas Tech wins this game, which means Tech fans, congratulations. You are going back to a bowl game. 6-6 is my final predicted record for the Red Raiders. Best case scenario I see is 8-4. I think their offense can steal them some games. Particularly, I think it can steal them a game, maybe on the road against Texas. Again, we'll wait and see. I think it might be able to steal them. I'm predicting it's going to be able to steal them that game against Oklahoma State. Maybe they get a win against Houston. There's a lot to like at this Texas Tech program. Worst case scenario, however, though, I see being 4-8, and the 2 additional losses you can tack on right at the end of the season there to Oklahoma State and Baylor. Look, Texas Tech, again, if they continue to find ways to, not purposefully, but if they continue to find ways to lose games, Texas Tech could fall to 4-8. But that is my floor for the Red Raiders this year. I think they're going to be much better than that. Congratulations, Red Raider fans. I have you going back to a bowl game, and that's going to do it for my preview prediction for the Red Raiders in the 2021 season. Again, if you're a Red Raider fan, college football fan, subscribe, like, share, comment on the video as well. Of course, be mindful what you say, be nice to everyone. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about top 10 tight ends in the nation. Is your favorite team's tight end fall on there? You're going to find out tomorrow. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. Again, tomorrow, top 10 tight ends. Goodbye.